They moved them with breakneck speed. And I saw a copy of the letter dated the 4th of July that these people are transferred, at least I saw two, with immediate effect. Immediate effect. And there's always a problem with immediate effect and transfers. And let me tell you this, immediate effect is an extreme measure. Let me repeat that. For a person to be transferred in the Guyana Police Force, a senior person with immediate effect, that is an extreme measure. Why? Because when you hold certain positions, like administration, like operations, special branch, it requires a handover. You have to hand over to your...
To let them. They voted by phone. Now, how do you vote by phone call? I thought that the secrecy of the vote in an election is an inviolable principle of all elections. So how do you vote by phone? This is a new, and I wonder how they counted those votes by phone, and who did they call? Did they call Christopher Ram? Did they call Patterson? Did they call Sherrod Duncan? Well, I don't think they called him because he didn't get the votes. Or did they call Nigel Hughes and say, we're voting for you? And how was it done?
It appears that JAGDEO feels very threatened by JAGDEO, by Nigel Hughes. And so he is attempting to build a narrative that private citizen Nigel Hughes is engaged in some sort of conflict. Up to now, he has not defined what this conflict is. But they don't care about that. They want to create a narrative and a perception that Nigel Hughes is like them. He has conflicts, he's corrupt, he's involved in wrong.
Taking orders from the politicians, and he's saying that the appointment of a deputy commissioner is a political one, and seeing that he's a politician, he's dealing with them, he should be the deputy commissioner. Another one, if they only appoint him, the US gonna take away visa like what they do with Henry Green. They say because of his involvement with certain corrupt businessmen and drug dealers. And there's another one who is highly favored by the house in Rock Street. They're all vying for the position. And what they do is...
And then he himself had said sometime in the past that, oh, these oil companies can fund political parties and they can take over a country. So if now Nigel Hughes is the lawyer for ExxonMobil, so if he remains the lawyer for this company and the company pays him for legal services, then what is there to say that this can't be a conduit for political contributions to his party? Because they can easily inflate the legal bill.
They're absolutely racist. They're absolutely corrupt. You doubt me? The United States government had to sanction them. Never in history. Never in history. But the United States government sanctioned two members of the PPP. One on the Central Committee of the PPP, May Thomas. And Barry JAGDEO boasted that she was his assistant. She was his chief deputy during the years of the coalition government. He said, working very hard to collect bribes. Because that's what the US government accused her of doing.
$16.5 million, that was wedding gift. Well, if you're getting them type of wedding gift, I think I might have married a couple more times, if I am that fortunate. So that is what is happening. And information is that this shake-up, what they call rotation, had to do with those allegations. It had to do with those allegations. But to make the matter even worse, to make a man at administration, the man is the de facto second in command. Because an admin man is one of the most powerful persons in the force. The admin man, in case you don't know, in charge of a lot of things. So things like postings of officers and so on, the finance of.
The entire press conference was designed for one purpose. It is to allow him to keep this lucrative deal whilst still remaining leader of the party.
So, in order to detract the public's attention from the fact that they are the most corrupt party in the history of Guyana, they want to accuse other people of being corrupt. So it is within this context that JAGDEO has adopted this strategy of calling black people corrupt. Every black person.
Welcome back to the flight. Hit that subscription button, buddy, and stay updated with everything that's trending in Guyana and the diaspora. Thanks.
Let me go. They said this thing is not a shake-up. You know, I remember Shadow. Shadow got a song named Toe Jam. He said, part of the lyrics, he said, they tell me don't walk with Jacob because Jacob does walk and shake up. Da, 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 da. I enjoy this one. This is a shake-up. Senior officers at that level, at that very, very senior levels, are not moved just like that. To as they say, to foster efficiency in an organization. No, sir. No, it is not done that way. The fact that the de facto second in command, who's the admin man, is moved so suddenly, and some people say abruptly, right? Something wrong, Chinese man says, something wrong. And don't come and pull wool over our eyes to tell us about foster efficiency. They move, I don't see Siga to enjoy this one. They move them with breakneck speed. They move them with breakneck speed. And I saw a copy of the letter dated the 4th of July that these people are transferred, at least I saw two, with immediate effect. Immediate effect. And there's always a problem with immediate effect and transfers. And let me tell you this, immediate effect is an extreme measure. Let me repeat that. For a person to be transferred in the Guyana Police Force, a senior person with immediate effect, that is an extreme measure. Why? Because when you hold certain positions, like administration, like operations, special branch, it requires a handover. You have to hand over to your successor. So when they say with immediate effect, when they tell you now, pack up and move immediately, that is an extreme measure. And people have been speculating, questions are being asked as to what prompted this sudden move. We know that allegations have been made in recent times that a particular senior officer has attempted to launder $16.5 million to the police credit union. That is there. They have never come out to debunk that. It is circulating. I saw statements over the weekend about that on social media. They have never come out to say that that is not so. But they can, because the receipts are there. The evidence is there. And to make matters worse, once that was done, and the people, they took the money initially, I understand, and then they returned the money. The people were then victimized, removed from their positions. They were then victimized. And I made the point here because somebody advised me that a credit union is considered under the laws of Guyana as a financial institution. So when they bring these sanctions against the Mohammed and they tell you financial institutions, it's not only the banks, but you're talking about insurance companies, you're talking about credit union as well, right? So right away, bells should have been going off. But apparently nothing happened for months. I kept talking about it. You get a man in a position who is attempting to launder money through the credit union, and you do nothing. I'm sure the government would have heard about that, and they did nothing, no investigation or anything like that. And I understand that it went further than that. Further, because allegations are that a senior police officer bought a prime property at the corners of Albert and 5th Street, Alberton. And the allegation is that cash money was paid, some $50-something million cash money paid for the property. It is further said that the property that was there, Francis, if you know Georgetown, Francis Bar, was a going concern. It was demolished. The building was demolished. On the day of the demolition, police turned out in their numbers to control traffic and all of that. All of these things are nothing. Further allegations about corruption. It is alleged that a man get property all over the place. In a short space of time between 2020 and now, man acquired property all over. How were these properties acquired? They said that with the $16.5 million, they said was wedding gift. Well, if you're getting them type of wedding gift, I think I might have married a couple more times, if I am that fortunate. So that is what is happening. And information is that this shake-up, what they call rotation, had to do with those allegations. It had to do with those allegations. But to make the matter even worse, to make a man at administration, the man is the de facto second in command. Because an admin man is one of the most powerful persons in the force. The admin man, in case you don't know, in charge of a lot of things. So things like postings of officers and so on. The finance office comes under the admin man. The quartermaster store comes under the admin man. So in January of 2021, the Minister of Home Affairs went to Parliament, Rosenben, and said $300 million were missing for the police finance office. And you know much more after that. We also heard a few months ago, something last year, that $300 million in items were missing from the quartermaster stores. You know, hear nothing more. People transfer and so on. You hear anything more. And I made the point then, and I'm telling you that the permanent secretary, Ministry of Home Affairs, is the accounting officer for the Guyana police force. So anything to do with cash, especially them big cash, she got to be involved. The man in the police force is the man at admin. So the question is, the PS is sanctioned for corruption. Could it be all this is part of it, and these people might be complicit or directly involved in all of these things? What's the right? What's the right? What's the right? Let me bring Mr. Conway. We got much more to talk about this. Let me bring Mr. Conway to obviously now. See, this rotation that they talk about at the senior level. What are your views, my brother?
Ludicrous job rotation. Job rotation is a temporary thing that you do, and you don't rotate your very senior people with immediate effect or with breakneck speed. Job rotation or cross training is a way you give person the ability to gain some other knowledge. So what they talk about is a tool, a management tool, and it boils down to the fact that here, the Guyana Police Force does not have a succession plan. They ain't get no succession plan. And make clear, and to get a succession plan, first you gotta look at career development. There's no career development in the Guyana Police Force. Persons aren't being properly trained. I had to jump in and say that we get an academy. Nonsense. That persons has got to be properly trained for the position. Properly trained for the position. And part of the thing you do what you call job and enlargement, where you give them opportunity so they can get more knowledge and more skills, develop more skills, better attitude, and job enrichment. And I'm talking about enrichment in job wise, not enrichment where you're hearing a certain officer attempt to launder $16.5 million, tell a certain officer allegations bought a place for 58 million. I'm not talking about the kind of enrichment. Yeah? That will be a time more enrichment of the job. And seeing that they have no succession plan, and it's true, you can't think, because right now there are vacancies for 4 deputy commissioners, and it has been so for a long time. And to make deputy commissioners is a simple process. It's a presidential appointment where the president will appoint deputy commissioner, acting commissioner, deputy commissioner, after meaningful consultations with the leader of the opposition and the chairman of the Police Service Commission, who would have by then consulted with other members. So here it is. We have vacancies for 4 deputy commissioners: administration, operations, special branch, and CID. And they're masquerading as deputy commissioner acting. There's no deputy commissioner acting in the Guyana Police Force. If even the extended squatter, his substantive rank is that of a senior superintendent. They're all senior superintendents. Assistant commissioner. They're all assistant commissioners, and the president ain't making no appointment. He said when he go overseas, the people in the foreign countries talk highly about the police, their performance. And if he believe, if he's talking so highly of them, why doesn't he make them deputy commissioners? But in a quagmire, because if there's one, I now call him, that his name is called in a letter of alleged financial irregularity, an assistant commissioner. There's another one, assistant commissioner, can't file in his own position, can't give proper intelligence, can't give actionable intelligence. Another one, taking orders from the politicians, and he's saying that the appointment of a deputy commissioner is a political one, and seeing that he's a politician, he's dealing with them, he should be the deputy commissioner. Another one, if they only appoint him, the US gonna take away visa like what they do with Henry Green. They say because of his involvement with certain corrupt businessmen and drug dealers. And there's another one who is highly favored by a house in Robb Street. They're all vying for the position. And what they're doing there's no unity there. They're trying to outdo each other. Show that I can do better than this one. When this one can't get the work done, I'll get it done. So there's a situation where the unity and the remember Pastor Dulichan prayed for them, and then knock you off. The president to get involved. That there's no unity among the assistant commissioners holding critical position at the top. They're all fighting for a piece of the pie. And therefore the police force can't go thing. And maybe that is why the president ain't making none of them deputy commission. What is affecting the force? And it's trickling down to the bottom. Now look at the appointments. The admin man has gone to special branch. I know we gone yet, but according to the other. Special branch is a critical area in the Guyana police force. You're sending somebody who has serious allegations against him, and you're sending him to special branch. And the real objective of special branch is to provide timely, insightful, objective, and relevant intelligence to inform decisions on national issues and events. That's the role, to provide timely, insightful, objective, and relevant intelligence. But they ain't getting that. So a man who is questionable or may say a person who is questionable, they send him to the special branch. And what they do with special branch too? They take the triple jumper and send him there. The special has gone out to the special branch, and the branch hanging, and understand the triple jumper jumping all over the branch and weighing down the branch. So how can we get timely, insightful, objective, and relevant information to inform decision of national issues and events? We couldn't get it. Remember, the Americans spent so much years investigating, and we couldn't get a wink. So the whole thing what they're saying is part of a job rotation. In our job rotation, is deeper than that. It's deeper than that. And then they need to make sure that they have what we call career development. Career development in the Guyana police force. It isn't there. That people should go through certain amount of training before they get certain rank. Now what extent is what I'm saying about core courses. I see that the core courses is joke. Should tear up them programs and throw them in the waste paper basket. Junk. That person should be properly trained that before you reach certain rank, you must go through certain courses. I remember General Powell used to talk about the rite of passage that his soldier had to go through certain courses before they. I mean, getting no course. When last somebody been to FBI? When last somebody been to England? When last somebody been to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police? When last somebody been to Jamaica where the British is pumping a lot of money to train police officers? Here they gone to India for those some 1 week thing and them kind of stuff with it. So I'm making a point is that the police force, don't worry, this job rotation, which we say is a tool of management. Look at career development, look at succession planning. And the vacancies are there, and I know when they're going to fill the vacancies, because you have persons, especially you get persons there where a lot of financial irregularities, allegations of financial irregularities. We hear, and like they forget about this one, we hear that, I saw documents where a secretary and a driver collected hundreds of thousands of dollars to go and conduct investigation at Kaikan, at Oranjuk, and at Port Kaitumo police station. Up to now, they never reached there. And when the finance man query it, people say, hey, as long you see my signature, don't query nothing. As long as I sign thing there, you carry through. So, and it's them people now we have in critical position. Therefore, the force has got to slide down. The force won't go anywhere because it's top. And they should shake the top. And sometimes you got to do surgery, You got to do surgery. Sometimes you need to do a surgery to get rid of things. Because things are not going well, and at the top is questionable.
Surgery is one option. Well, let me tell you another option when you're dealing with insects, termites, rodents. It's called little poison. You got to get rid of them. You get termites around the place, you got to make sure you get, let me use so fancy word termites. You get rodents around, you have got to find the nest and destroy all of them. You get rats, you got to give them poison to eat and poison them out or set trap to catch them. You get roaches, you got to know how to deal with roaches, right? Because you can't move them from one place to the next. And let me understand this thing clearly. Allegations made against your senior officer. And you move it from one area to the next. I would have thought that if you're serious about getting involved and to find out or getting to the bottom of it, the man should have been made to go and leave. Assure the man get enough leave, send him and leave. Or if he doesn't have leave, put him on administrative leave.
One love, Delta9 family. Welcome back to the flight. So there you have it. The top cops themselves decoding it for us so that we could understand some of the intricacies of what transpires in the force when there's promotion or persons are moving from one department to the next. It don't happen with breakneck speed and with immediate effect, because there's a transfer of power that would allow a smooth transition that they don't have in this situation here with the shake-up squad. So we now as Guyanese gotta pay more careful attention to what is going on with the force. Because if you're paying attention to the news right now, you're gonna realize that there's a lot going on with the force. Allegedly, you're hearing that the commissioner himself is being asked to resign because of money laundering, allegedly. And then they got all kind of other things going on right now in the streets. Look, the way that this is looking, it's making it hard for the good cops. Because we know they got good police who go to work and go there to serve and protect and to do the right thing in accordance with their jobs. But when you got these situations here, it kind of put them behind a dark lens. So now you got to see through all this darkness that's being presented in the forefront to really see their light shining through, because it's a great thing. It's a great service that they provide. But in accordance with what the top cops is telling us right now, look, something bigger going on with the shake-up squad. Allegedly, there's more to it. There is more to what is going on there. And when you're talking about more, now, JAGDEO and the entire PPP party have a zero in target for Nigel Hughes and everything going on in the AFC right now, because they're looking at them like, hey, we got to make sure that we get them now early on, before they get to build up any momentum, before they get to deal with any going into communities and all of them things. Right now, we're about to get into some of the conversation that the vice president is having about none other than Mr. Nigel Hughes himself. Look, there's a lot of details that he's getting into, and we're going to listen so that we could understand what's coming from the other side, because you got to understand both sides of this political spectrum, you know, so that you could move in the center. Because remember, in a political issue, in anything that's dealing with polls, the center pole is the most powerful pole. That's the pole from which both negative and positive, government and opposition, would have originated from. That neutral pole, the people who empower either side of the political arena, right? So knowing that, we can hear directly what the VP got to say, and then we're going to hear from none other than Mr. Burke himself, and he is going to give us some of the insights as to what's going on right now with Nigel Hughes and the PPP. So we're going to hear from the VP himself, and then we're going to hear from one of his former students, Mr. Burke, and they're going to give us some insights as to what's going on in the political realm right now as it relates to the AFC and Nigel Hughes and everything that they have planned for Guyana moving forward. Look, if you haven't already, buddy, hit that thumbs up button, please and thank you, so that these topics can stay in the headline and no one can sweep them under the rug. Hit that thumbs up button, and if you're subscribed already, subscribe so that you will always stay updated with everything that is trending in Guyana and in the diaspora.
I think they went into panic mode. They did not realize that Nigel Hughes had this huge baggage and that he will take this obscene position. That is the leadership of the AFC. In an interview with Demerara Waves, he said that should the national interests conflict with his personal interests as a lawyer to ExxonMobil, his personal interests and Exxon's interests would prevail over the national interests. Now, this is the person who just got elected to the leadership of his party. In fact, the top position in his party. That is clear for every Guyanese to see. You can't walk that back. You can't undo that. That was done. It's in the full public domain. And I commend Dennis Shabrov for asking him that question. And for I think it's incumbent on every Guyanese to read what he said there, because it reveals the working of his mind. That national interests will come second to him in any situation where his money is affected. Then today, yesterday I dealt with this at the press conference, and I pointed out that apart from what he said yesterday, when he was interviewed, that there are other things that he should answer for. So they held this press conference today, I think, to rebut what I said yesterday. And they dragged out half of the AFC at the press conference. Patterson started off by saying they will lead a moral revival in this country. This is disingenuous. It's coming from a person who's currently before the court, charged with two cases, in two cases for corrupt practices when he was minister. Almost every member who was on that podium, or most of the members there, are involved in some corrupt activity that is publicly known. But the AFC will now lead a moral revival in the country. I spoke yesterday of recycle leadership, or recycle leaders. It's a party of recycle leaders. It's a corrupt cabal of recycle leaders who are accustomed to privilege in the past and think they can dupe the people of Guyana once again into electing them and returning them to the place where they enjoy all of these privileges and were engaged in the corrupt practices. Patterson said, it's very revealing to me what he said, actually, that they have 5,000 members in the AFC, but they only got 200 delegates. So that meant that one delegate represented 25 of their members at the Congress, recently held Congress. Now in the PPP, we have a ratio of delegate to membership of 3-to-1. Every party, every group can submit 1/3 of their numbers as delegates. They are saying 25-to-1. Now that number is fictitious. It's the 5,000 persons. Secondly, he said, we had a well-run Congress. It was a great Congress, huge turnout, packed house, and that our delegates could not all make it to Georgetown because the PPP is responsible for the bad road from Let Them In. But those delegates who made it to Let Them, they voted by phone. Now, how do you vote by phone call? I thought that the secrecy of the vote in an election is an inviolable principle of all elections. So how do you vote by phone? This is a new, and I wonder how they counted those votes by phone, and who did they call? Did they call Christopher Ram? Did they call Patterson? Did they call Sherrod Duncan? Well, I don't think they called him because he didn't get the votes. Or did they call Nigel Hughes and say, we're voting for you? And how was it done? So it's very interesting what they've said at the beginning of their press conference. It raises more concerns about their membership and about the conduct of the elections that were recently held. I've already said to you that they did a hatchet job on Sherrod Duncan, one of their own, by spreading everywhere that he was corrupt. And frankly speaking, Nigel Hughes has more baggage, 100 times more baggage in his closet than Sherrod Duncan has.
So,
but yeah, so I think the purpose, I spoke about how panicked they were. And so the entire press conference was called by Nigel Hughes. And he rolled out the other stooges, the Ramjatans and the others, to defend one point, that he must keep his contract with ExxonMobil whilst being leader of the AFC. And they all fell in line. That was the purpose of this press conference, nothing else.
Nigel Hughes as leader on what's happening in Parliament, especially among his own MPs. With this whole committee that Hughes hopes to set up, to set himself aside and not make any decisions, I'm still, again, lost as to how or if something like that can even work.
Okay, so I think the entire purpose of the press conference was to prove that Nigel Hughes did not have a conflict of interest. It was, and he failed miserably at that, proving that. Secondly, it was designed to get this entire corrupt cabal to support him, to remain as leader, and at the same time continue to profit from a contract with ExxonMobil. So they had to do some fancy footwork. First of all, we were regaled with an explanation as to what constitutes a conflict of interest by Nigel Hughes.
Right.
He sought to define in his own way, conveniently, condescendingly, what a conflict of interest is, as though we do not, or the people of Guyana cannot understand one when they see it. For a person who said that when the national interest conflicts with that of his client, the client's interest would prevail. How could you be the leader of a political party that is, and you're seeking to be the presidential candidate for the elections, the upcoming elections? It's impossible. It is not only a conflict of interest, it is also immoral. It's immoral. It's obscene that you would even contemplate that. He has to have a healthy disregard for what the people of this country think to try to foist this position on us. But he has these sycophants in the AFC, the stooges like Ramjatan, who will go to a press conference to try to support him on this matter. So a conflict of interest does exist, not only because he's a politically exposed person, which he was in the past because of his wife being a member of parliament, but now he has moved from an ordinary member of the AFC, or maybe not even a card-bearing member of the AFC, to the leadership of that party, where he has to play a role in determining the party's position in relation to oil and gas. So he now says, I will have no role. I will not play a role in determining my party's position. What sort of leadership
As a
will
leader
you
of the
give
party.
as a leader of the party? So he tries to come today, he comes today to say, oh, I will set up a committee with Vincent Adams and Patterson, two recycled persons from the sector. It was Vincent Adams who signed the environmental permit for Lice 1, and Patterson, who knows very little about the sector. The only claim to fame for Patterson in the sector was when they tried to move the pipeline's location conveniently to an area where some private people had acquired land. But they have no skill in this area. They're just sycophants of Nigel Hughes. But let's think this through. So you have this committee, and they come up with some policy advice. They give it to the leader. So I can, as leader of the party now, I will not speak publicly about the advice that my committee, my party gives me, because it conflicts with the interest of my client. So I will not advocate it. So I'm abdicating my responsibility as leader of the party. Secondly, his party is represented in the National Assembly.
Yes.
So he says, I can only influence government policy when I'm president, and therefore I'll resign when I'm president. But he is in a position to influence the government policy through the National Assembly. There are three branches of the government: the judicial arm of the government, the executive arm, and of the state, and the legislature. And his MPs are there. He can influence them now as leader of the party to vote on a legislation in favor of his client. So that is also a conflict. He is in a conflict of interest position there. And then he himself had said sometime in the past that, these oil companies can fund political parties and they can take over a country. So if now Nigel Hughes is the lawyer for ExxonMobil, so if he remains the lawyer for this company, and the company pays him for legal services, then what is there to say that this can't be a conduit for political contributions to his party? Because they can easily inflate the legal bill to give him funding for his political party. That he has not addressed this, because that's an easy path for political contributions, because Exxon is prohibited from making political contributions in the countries that they are operating in, except outside of the US. So this could be a conduit for political contributions from ExxonMobil.
It sounds like Mr. Hughes is banking on the public not
considering all of these things. And then fourthly, he says, I've never handled this account. It's handled by Mr. Pollard. Now, Pollard is part of the law firm that he owns. So whether it's handled by Pollard or anyone else, the Exxon's account, he benefits from it financially when the proceeds come into the company, because he's part owner of the company. So apart from him being a politically exposed person, these are all issues that we need to consider. And he wanted the country not to pay attention to any of these issues. That's why he had all of these sycophants surrounding him. and trying to distract attention from Vincent Adams talking about metering now, and somebody else. He didn't know about metering when he was at the EPA. They installed him at the EPA. And Patterson talking about something else, their moral revival. The entire press conference was designed for one purpose. It is to allow him to keep this lucrative deal whilst still remaining leader of the party.
Hyperventilating. The song wasn't working. We had a technical problem, so I'm not sure why. But I've been seeing the PPP hyperventilating since Nigel Hughes was elected leader of the APNU. And I've made it clear to everybody that I support Nigel's vision for Guyana. I've seen JAGDEO gone into full panic. Full panic. There's no better way to describe it. Full panic. Because I guess his perception, and keep sharing the link, everybody, his perception is that Nigel Hughes is going to run for president. And you know he's the de facto president. So it appears that JAGDEO feels very threatened by JAGDEO, by Nigel Hughes. And so he is attempting to build a narrative that private citizen Nigel Hughes is engaged in some sort of conflict. Up to now, he has not defined what this conflict is. But they don't care about that. They want to create a narrative and a perception that Nigel Hughes is like them. He has conflicts, he's corrupt, he's involved in wrongdoing. And implicit in that is their apartheid technique or strategy of ascribing criminality to black leaders. These people are congenital criminals. They're born so. It's an inheritance, them in the PPP. It's a part of their culture. But they so believe in ethnic supremacy, and they so believe in this KKK, white supremacist type ideology, which they subscribe to, that paints black people as criminals or engaged in wrongdoing, etc. And that is the strategy of the PPP. You doubt me? Let's examine every black leader in Guyana since the PPP has returned to power. They know that they are vulnerable when it comes to racism and corruption and criminality. That's their vulnerability. They're absolutely racist. They're absolutely corrupt. You doubt me? The United States government had to sanction them. Never in history. Never in history. But the United States government sanctioned two members of the PPP. One on the Central Committee of the PPP, May Thomas. And JAGDEO boasted that she was his assistant. She was his chief deputy during the years of the coalition government. He said, working very hard to collect bribes. Because that's what the US government accused her of doing. So the PP government has placed Guyana on the map for being the most corrupt country in the Western Hemisphere. The government that has received sanctions by the US government. Sanctions by the US government. Nobody from the AFC has ever been sanctioned by the US government. Nobody from the PNC has ever been sanctioned by the US government. Nobody from any other political party, any organization, no individual in Guyana has ever been sanctioned, to my knowledge, by the US government. All right? But here we have it. The PPP government knows that they are most vulnerable when it comes to crime, drug smuggling, and criminality. So, in order to detract the public's attention from the fact that they are the most corrupt party in the history of Guyana, they want to accuse other people of being corrupt. So it is within this context that JAGDEO has adopted this strategy of calling black people corrupt. Every black person that opposes the PPP, corrupt, they're criminals, and they abuse the instruments of government in furtherance of their schemes to smear people. You doubt me? They got Clifford Hicken in the police force framing people, launching phony investigations, calling people extortionists, calling. In the meantime, the US government has just said that the members of the Guyana police force are corrupt. The leadership is corrupt, and they're taking bribes. They're taking bribes to issue firearm licenses. As a matter of fact, I saw in a report here that one person has 123 firearm licenses. The police force must explain to the Guyanese people under the PPP why one person has 123 firearm licenses. If that's not true, let them deny it. I noticed Clifford Hicken has denied that he is not sent on leave and there is no corruption. We all know that's BS. But they have not denied that, because I wrote that on my page. They haven't denied it. And I'm deliberately outlining certain things in my preamble here, because I'm going to come back to the end and tie it all up. So, immediately after Nigel a week ago was elected leader of the AFC, JAGDEO the next day or the same day made a post claiming that there's a conflict of interest because his law firm.
Unleash the best version of yourself with every goddess. Say goodbye to limitations and say hello to a better, stronger, healthier you.
Say on the recount.
You want to have the last thing?
No,
The last.
I am saying the recount, the bare recount showed the PPP won.
Right.
If you go back to the terms of reference for the recount, it called for a forensic audit of the votes. And the forensic audit showed that the PPP manipulated the election.
Nothing of the sort, David. Come on.
Day. It
You
showed
can't
that
have
there
the
were
last saying
people in the country who voted that were not there. Not the PNC said that. The police.